Good morning, students. This is your English literature class. I had already told you in the group that I'll be taking English literature class instead of science because you are having English literature test on Friday. Okay, so we'll be starting with the new chapter today. The chapter's title is Jadav and the Tree Place. This is Jadav, a tree planter. Okay, so this story is about a man named Jadav who is a tree planter. He loves tree places because they are full of life. What does tree places mean? Tree places means places with trees. He loves tree places because they are full of life. No tree places make him terribly sad because they are full of dead things. So what does no tree places means? Places without trees. So no tree places makes him terribly sad. Why? Because they are full of dead things. Years ago, Jadav was walking along the banks of Great Brahmaputra river when he arrived at a big empty no tree place. So years a long time back, Jadav was walking along the banks of the Great Brahmaputra river. So he arrived at the big place where there was no tree at all. It was dry and hot. The sand was powdery and stripped. Okay, so the place was very dry and hot, and the sand was powdery and stripped. Stripped sand? How odd. So he thought to himself, how can a sand be stripped? Okay, Jadav went closer to take a better look. Oh, but they weren't stripes at all. The ground was covered in snakes. So when he went closer and took a better look, the sand was actually not striped. Okay, it was actually covered with snakes. Last night's floods must have washed them ashore, Jadav thought. So Jadav thought that the floods had brought the snakes to the banks of the river. What does wash them ashore mean? Brought them to the bank of the river. Okay. Now to the next page. These snakes weren't slinking and slithering and swaying about like regular healthy snakes. So what does slinking means? Slinking means gliding. Okay. So these snakes weren't slinking and slithering and swaying about like regular healthy snakes. So these words are used to explain the movement of the snake on the ground. They move in a zigzag manner. So the words slinking, slithering and swaying are used to explain the movement of the snakes. Okay, so these snakes were not moving like a regular healthy snakes. Okay, when Jadav walked among them, they didn't hiss or run away or try to bite him. They just lay about like old ropes, tired and still. So when Jadav walked among those snakes, they didn't hiss or even try to bite him. They were laying like old ropes, tired and still. Poor snakes, they are dying from the heat. If only they had some shade to lie in. If only this no tree place had some trees in it. So Jadav talked with himself. He said, these poor snakes are dying in the heat. Okay, and they have no shade to lie in. If only this no tree place had trees in it, so they can lie in the shade. Jadav couldn't bear to watch the snakes die. It made him so terribly sad that he sat down and began to cry. So Jadav couldn't watch the snakes die, and it made him terribly sad and he started crying. But he quickly came to his senses. No more crying. From now on, only trying. So When he was crying, he quickly came back to his senses and he said to himself, "No more crying, from now on only trying." He jumped up, ran back to his village and began collecting all the bamboo shoots he could carry in his bag. So he jumped up and ran back to his village to collect bamboo shoots in his bag. Regular plants won't grow in the hot sand, but bamboo will. Bamboo is strong. So he thought that regular plants won't grow in hot sand, but bamboo will grow because they are strong. So he took bamboo shoots in his bag, okay, and came back to the shore. Jadhav brought the shoots to the no-tree place and started planting them everywhere. It was hard, hot work and it took years. So he came back to the banks of the river or shore, okay, and he started planting the bamboo shoots. And it was not easy to plant those bamboo shoots on those hot and hard sand, okay. So it took years to plant those shoots on the banks of the river. The river grew thin one summer and flooded the next, sometimes bringing more sand and sometimes taking it away. So as years passed by, sometimes the river grew thin and sometimes it flooded, okay. Sometimes it brought more sand and sometimes it took away some sand with it. Heavy rains came and went, but Jadhav kept on planting. So at times there was heavy rains and at times there were none. So but still Jadhav kept on planting those bamboo shoots. In time the bamboo took root and began to grow. As it grew, it brought shade and shade brought insects. So as time passed by, those bamboo shoots that he had planted on the banks of the river started to grow tall, and as it grew tall, it brought shade, and under the shade insects were brought. The insects came under the shades of the bamboo shoots or bamboo trees, okay. The insects burrowed into the ground and the earth below the bamboo trees began to change, okay. So what does burrowed into the ground means? Dug holes in the ground. So the insect came under the shade of the bamboo trees and they started digging under the bamboo trees and the earth below the bamboo trees began to change, okay. So thank you, that's all for today.